the extraordinary decision on the face of it of Muslim countries to bomb other Muslim countries and other Muslims. Like we have Saudi Arabia bombing in Yemen currently. But it all starts to make more sense when you realize that one of the great divide and rule examples is the dividing and ruling of Islam through two factions, the Sunni, the vast majority, and the Shia or Shiite. And when you start to realize that Sunni-dominated Saudi Arabia is bombing Shia rebels in Yemen, and that so many of these Arab on Arab, Muslim on Muslim conflicts and assaults are actually along the lines of Sunni and Shia. Now, they agree, these two factions, on almost everything about Islam. Can't be true, Dave. It is. And what they don't agree on comes from something, pinch me, it can't be true, ouch, it is, from something like 1400 years ago, when the Prophet Muhammad left us, and two factions, now called Sunni and Shia, started arguing and killing each other over who should be his successor. The Sunni say one thing, and the Shia say it's a bloke called Ali. 1400 years ago. And it's still going on. And if you people can't control the world, it's a piece of cake. So you have now this faction of Sunni, I say the dominant faction of Islam, which breaks down in meaning to something like people of the tradition, and you have Shiite or Shia, which is basically party of Ali, the bloke they said should have succeeded Muhammad. Now, from that division, schism, all that time ago, has come so much that's happening today, and is, like I say, in the headlines today. So you have so much of the Muslim world, not least Saudi Arabia, Qatar, etc., who are more focused on unseating and destroying Shia targets than they are their alleged targets and opponents like Israel. And there are many other connections between the ruling fake royals of Saudi Arabia and Israel, which explain that at a much deeper level. So you look at the emphasis and the targeting of Iran by much of these Sunni-dominated countries and their ruling elites. And it just so happens that Iran is the major center for the Shia Muslim faction sect. And then you have Saudi Arabia and Qatar, who have been supplying weapons, money and support for rebels in Syria to target the regime of Assad. Assad comes from a sect called the Alawites, which is a faction of the Shia Muslim sect. Alawite means, in effect, followers of Ali, the bloke they said should have succeeded Mohammed. And then you look at ISIS. ISIS in Iraq. ISIS is a Sunni Muslim operation. And Iraq has, one of the rare countries, has a majority of Shia Muslims. Not absolutely up in the 80-90%, but significantly more than half. And we saw this week a Shia cleric in Iraq saying that if the United States creates a Sunni section of Iraq and a Kurdish section of Iraq as, in effect, separate countries, then the Shia of Iraq in its different forms will be at war with the United States as a result of that. And of course, people who've read my books and others will know that the plan all along has been to break Iraq up into, in effect, regions. Why? To divide and rule, to break up unity. That's the whole point. Divide and rule is bloody everywhere. So we have this situation which I was writing about in the books many, many years ago, in which I was pointing out that what was coming in the Middle East was a massive campaign to play Shia off against Sunni, to divide and rule, and then, as a result of that, take over the Middle East. And that is what we're seeing. When I first wrote about the scale of it and the names involved in a book called The Biggest Secret in the late 1990s, it was seen as outrageous. Couldn't be. That couldn't happen. Now, as more and more comes out, people are beginning to reevaluate their scale and their perception of the possible. And to understand the nature of what is happening and the scale of it, the depth of it, you've really got to get our heads around the fact that pure undiluted evil is directing the world and manipulating events, and that what you see in the apparent world that we experience is merely a facade. It's merely a movie screen behind which untold, unspeakable evil goes on. The latest strand in this hidden web to start to appear now is the former cabinet minister, former Home Secretary, and other positions in the Margaret Thatcher administration in the 1980s, called Leon Brittan. He died a few days ago, and as a result, the open secret that was not spoken due to libel laws, etc., and outright suppression, the unspoken secret started to be revealed. Here's just a couple of newspaper headlines. Britain abused me when I was 10 is one of them. Another one, cops filmed Leon Brittan at underage abuse house, and so it goes on. I've been investigating the paedophile networks, the elite paedophile networks involving some of the most famous people on the planet for 2 decades. And Leon Brittan was a name that came up quite often in the accounts of people who were describing what had happened to them. So I've been watching the Leon Britton evolving situation with a shaking head, because when it was announced that Geoffrey Dickens, the Conservative MP, had handed a dossier of elite paedophiles to Leon Britton when he was Home Secretary in the Thatcher government, and that this dossier, having been given to Britton, went missing, it was like, well, it's obvious why it went missing, because Leon Britton was a paedophile within the Westminster Downing Street paedophile ring that Dickens was in part exposing. It's no coincidence that the Thatcher Attorney General at the time was a man called Michael Havers, who is now named by victims as participating in paedophile parties where children were abused. And it was the same Michael Havers who sought, at the same time as Leon Britton, to stop the naming of a British diplomat as a paedophile.